I'm Peter Bois, nationally touring magician.
And I'm Gus Davis, nationally touring game show host.
We don't get regular Saturday nights because we are out performing on the weekends.
That's why Mondays are so special to us. They are our Saturdays.
We will help you get through your Monday by joining us on our Saturday.
Monday is the new Saturday.
Welcome
to Monday Club. Oh, yeah! What's up, Monday Maniacs out there? This is Gus Davis, along with me, as always, my sultry voice mate, Mr. Peter Bois. Listen, we have an amazing show for you today. Chris Ruggiero is in the tree fort this week, talking to him about all his crazy antics. We also are talking about volleyballs of steel. And, of course, we are talking about this week's Teachable moment. Stick around, it's going to be an amazing show!
Welcome to Monday!
That was loud. We just had a rock and roll concert here.
Hell's
Right,
Bells.
we don't play around. Did you work in a Hell's Bells? Good job, I'm proud of you.
Anytime I can work in Hells and Bells, I do.
Yeah, everybody, the third and wonderful voice that you are hearing in the Monday Club Tree Fort is Mr. Chris Ruggiero, magician, juggler, all-around entertainer, and badass, and we will get to talking to him in just a minute. But let's go ahead and give him a toast right now. Chris, thanks for being here, man.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers.
Yeah, watch this.
Nice.
Anyone who comes to Monday Club and is already two-fisting, I like a lot.
They didn't see that, but I had two glasses and I cheersed myself.
And he's got his own sound effects. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
I don't even need to dub that in. That's great.
That was pretty great. Dude, so first of all, Pete, how are you doing, buddy? I know that this is the end of grad night season. You awake? You doing okay?
I'm doing okay. I'm a little... I stayed up till like 3 a.m. a night ago, and then last night I decided to see the Late Late Show of Deadpool 2, so that was smart of me. So I still haven't caught up on my Z's. My eyes are a little... I had to do the eye drops today because they're just red and raw.
No, officer, I swear it's from seeing Deadpool 2.
Yes, I'm not stoned.
Oh, well, yeah, me too, bro. This last weekend, I had 2 grad night shows. The first one ended at 7:30 in the morning. So we loaded in at 8 p.m. It ended at 7:30 in the morning. We wrapped up and we finished and we drove to Midland, Texas, which is about a 5-hour drive. Got about a 3-hour nap and then did that all over again. Got to bed about 6 o'clock in the morning and then drove back home at about 11, 12 o'clock when we woke up. So yeah, I'm with you, bro. It's a rough Monday.
Yay to grad nights.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, man, we're just already off track, but Chris, do you do grad night shows, like high school grad nights?
I've done, I think, like 1 or 2 of them, and then I just never like got in. I know a lot of people like go all in on that. I just never did. I never got into it really. Like, I think I did a couple, and then I was like, this is really hard because of that. Because it's not. It's like a fun show, but it's like your day is like messed up for like because you're straight up. You're on at like 1 a.m. or something, and like it's just so. I was always like, oh, this is like crazy. It's such a weird thing.
You know what that saying where you when you're looking for the dumbest person in the room and you can't find it? That means you're the dumbest person, Chris.
Right.
You're the smarter of the two of us.
Yeah, no kidding. Chris just with very simple logic was just like, "Hey, that sounds awful. How about you just not do that?" Smart man.
Yeah.
Smart.
I feel
smart
like
man.
that's always the thing of like so many things for like shows and performances. You see, I'll hear something and I'll be like, oh, that's cool. And then I'll like do 1 or 2 of them. I'll be like, oh, that's not at all what I was expecting that to be.
So for me, again, guys, we'll get back to Monday Club in just a second. For me, I realized that high school is just not my ideal audience. And it's really funny because I will see those same kids in, I don't know, 2 or 3 months when it's orientation season, and I feel like I have a great orientation show. But the, like, I'm coming into their house when you go to a high school grad night show. It's them graduating. They're seniors, man. They're walking tall at their high school, and for some reason, I'll do the show, and the shows are fine. But I guess it's also that there's so much other things happening for them that it's really hard to keep their attention. So yeah, high school grad nights, they're rough, man. And plus, it's 4 o'clock in the morning when my show.
Yeah, that could be a big indicator of problems ahead.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump back into Monday Club. Cheers to this week. We are cheersing to an amazingly ballsy and sneaky photo bomb. Gus, you found this, reddit.com, of course, and I'll set it up. There's Chris, did you look at this little video?
I saw it. Yeah, I did cool. See that the guy jumping the thing.
There's a team photo. Yeah,
there's a team photo happening of an indoor volleyball team, and it's I don't know, 20 dudes and coaches and all dressed up in their volleyball gear, and then you see some guy from the left come out. They're on the court. And then in the stands, you see some guy start moving towards the court. And he's just running in. He jumps over like a fence and just jogs right into the picture and just stands there completely straight-faced. Like, I'm supposed to be here. Like, I'm the captain of this team. I need my picture with these guys. And just stands there and takes a picture. And he's in the official volleyball team photo. And apparently he wasn't supposed to be.
No, this is just some random fan, and what's hilarious is he's wearing the right colors, but it's clearly not a team jersey, right? Everyone else has their name and number on the back of their jersey and stuff. This guy just happens to be blue shorts, blue jersey, and just, man, the cojones on this dude to jump over. I think he has to jump over 2 fences and run down the stairs for the stadium that he was in, and then to just walk casually up and just lock arms with the guy next to him and be like, "Yeah, let's take this photo." I was stunned at the balls.
You know what I think the moment of the reason why he wasn't called out? He had knee pads on. No one would think. Look, there's nobody going to go through the trouble to buy volleyball knee pads, put little shorty shorts on, and put these knee pads on, and come jump in. He deserves to be in this photo. He goes through that trouble to put those pads on.
The devil's in the details. So if you're gonna do this kind of a stunt, pull it off the right way. Have knee pads, maybe even have a mouth guard, and just walk up. Hey guys.
I often think about that. I've thought about these things before, like, for just being able to do, because we see as like entertainers, we see like that sometimes, like the security guard at places or something, it's just like a dude you can become friends with, and then you can do whatever you want. I thought about this of just like making like you could have like a Monday Club VIP all access media pass and just go everywhere you want with like headset, bring like your Zoom recorder and like bring microphones, and you could probably get into everywhere you ever want to go. Like, hey, we're reporting, and
that's a great idea.
So, Chris, this is a real thing that has happened to me. Okay, when I first started touring about 15 or 16 years ago, I was brand new to being on the road. I was brand new to doing bigger venues like colleges and corporations and stuff like that. And at the time, the owner of the game show business, I'm fresh out of college, man. I'm like 22, 23 years old. Printed up me and our tech person these VIP all access badges, and that's all they said is VIP all access. And we would put
everywhere.
It's just VIP all access, and we would put those on, and we would wear those everywhere we went when we'd go to hotels, casinos, like all of this stuff. And dude, I am not joking. We would put these badges on. I would be 23, 24 years old. We would go to casinos to load in our show at casinos. We would go through the back areas of casinos, just walking around like we knew what we were doing, and no one stopped us. Not a single person stopped us. And I guess they just looked at, all access. I mean, this is a place that they can access, I guess. I mean, it was insane. And so, the moral of this story is, if you act like you're supposed to be somewhere, 99.95% of the time, you can just walk in like a boss.
Yeah. now somebody's going to go do something stupid and say it's your fault.
If they get it on film and we can use it for Cheers of the Week, I almost endorse it.
We need to have our legal team look at this episode now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's totally like I remember I was doing shows in Atlantic City, and I was juggling fire in this show in Atlantic City, so I like knew all the fire marshals in Atlantic City because they had to do the approvals and we had to have like meetings and all that. Uh-huh. And then I would go to like concerts, like big DJ concerts and stuff, and like the fire marshals would be like guarding the fire exits. And I would like walk up to them like with my buddies, and they'd be like, "Oh, hey, Chris, you want to come in?" And we'd like get it, like the doors would open and we would be in, and people would be like, "Wait, how did you just do that?" I'm like, "Oh, I know the fire marshals. Like, if you know that guy, you can literally do whatever you want."
Yeah,
and it's just like there's like secure, it's like. I feel like we're kind of encouraging people to do like bad things, but it's just like in the point of like if you just like as you said, if you just like hey, I belong here and I'm gonna do this, people are like, oh, okay. Most people don't want to like cause the trouble.
Yeah, attitude. I'll say this is a bonus teachable moment right here, definitely a bonus teachable moment. But anybody who is in the performing world at all, get to know your fire marshal, because those guys can shut you down. Like they'll shut down library shows. Yeah. Just be like, there's 32 kids in this one small space. I'm sorry, y'all got to go. They can shut down library shows, or they can just be super cool and be like, I mean, whatever, just don't burn the place down.
Yeah, I had a meeting with the fire marshal once when I was doing library shows.
Did you?
Yeah, I was doing a fire wallet in my library show, which for those of you who don't know, it's a wallet that bursts into 6
fire.
12-inch flames, and I was doing that in a library, with kids and books and pages and paper, and they apparently didn't appreciate the artistic merit of a fire wallet. So, I feel like I was looking back on that. I'm so stupid. Why would I have ever done that?
I did dumb stuff like that too, though. I used to use flash paper when I did library shows. I'd use flash paper to do Appearing Cane, and I remember it was always my defense of it was that kids would say that was their favorite part of the show, which also, looking back on it, really hurts my feelings. But yeah, man, flash paper was always cool, and I also, like you, I never put two and two together that, hey, maybe that's not cool for being inside of a store filled with nothing but paper.
Yeah, true. Well, let's raise our glass, gents.
All right,
let's raise our glass to the amazingly ballsy and sneaky photobomb of the volleyball team and getting into places where you shouldn't.
There you go. Cheers.
This week, I am drinking Sam 76. I've been seeing this in my beer cooler aisle for months now, and I had to try it. So I bought a 12er, and Sam Adams, they made this thing called Sam 76, like Sam 1976. It is very good. It's very light. I think it's a cross between a lager and an amber, which are two really, easy to drink, delicious type beers, and I really like it. I would highly recommend it. It's 12 IBUs, so I think Gus would like it as well.
Yeah.
And it's very tasty.
Is it? Would you call it a good summer beer?
Yes, I wouldn't call it fruity, but yeah, it's a good summer beer. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I almost, I kind of want to put it in the same category as like a Shiner Bock, maybe. Maybe not.
Okay, yeah, I could totally see that.
Not quite as light as that, taste-wise. Maybe a little bit more flavor, but right in that category, I think.
Cool, man. Yeah, I can totally see that. This week, I am making up for last week, and I poured myself what was supposed to be a Moscow Mule, except for I ran out of vodka. So it's a little tiny bit of vodka that was left in the bottle, and then I just filled a lot of this cup up with Bombay Sapphire gin, some lime, and some ginger beer, and boy, howdy, it's pretty good.
Gus's definition of running out of vodka is pouring an entire bottle and going, "Oh, we're out of vodka."
We're out of vodka. It's a big cup.
Chris, you have a drink for us today, or?
I like that the theory of I ran out of this, so I just dumped some of this other stuff in, and that's my favorite. I have probably my favorite, especially coming into summer time, is having a margarita, but not throw away. If you have margarita mix, dump it down the drain, and then just make your own. I'll make tequila with fresh squeezed limes, of course. And the secret kicker is blend up some fresh ginger in a NutriBullet or something, or a blender, whatever you have, and then just that, and then I don't like the sugar. I don't like sugary drinks. So like a margarita mix that you buy at the store is like too sweet, but just like tequila with like fresh lime, and then that blended up ginger gives like a crazy flavor. It's like it has like a punch to it from the ginger, and it's great.
I like that. That's like raw food diet alcohol. I love that.
It's healthy.
That's really good.
That's healthy. You mix some green powder in there, and you're good to go.
Add some kale. It's a meal.
No, it really does feel like it doesn't feel like that. You drink like a margarita from like Chili's or something. It's just like afterwards you're like, oh, my stomach hurts.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So sweet.
It's not from the alcohol; it's from the sugar.
Yeah, it's basically a snow cone. Yeah.
Yeah. So just like with that, and it's like no sweetener, and it's so good. It's like it almost actually really is more refreshing. So that's my thing. And in that thing of I talk to people about like cooking, because I cook at home sometimes, and people are like, oh, I don't know how to cook, and I'm like, well, you just make stuff hot. And it's like just find stuff in your fridge and then make it hot. You just cooked. And it's the same thing with like mixed drinks and stuff. People are like, oh, I don't know how to mix drink. And it's like what you just did. He's like, oh, I ran out of this thing, so I dumped some of this in, squeezed some lime in there, add some seltzer water, throw in some ginger beer, and like, oh, you have a drink. Like you can't make it, if it's too strong, you add some more seltzer or some Sprite or whatever.
Right.
If it's not strong enough, you dump some more vodka in there. Like that's just, I all about that, like, stop saying you don't know how to do something and then just dump some stuff together, and now you know how to do it.
So Chris, I got to tell you this quick story, dude. So a long time ago, my son was about 3 or 4 years old, and we moved in with my mom for a little while, and I was trying to learn how to be a single dad, and so I was like trying to learn how to cook and like clean and like how to get him to school on time, and how to not tape his eyes shut so he would take a nap, those kind of things that the father does, right? And so I remember I called my future wife, and I was talking to her, and I was so proud of myself. I had such a good day, and I was like, and I made tortellinis for him, and she was like, oh, no way, you made tortellinis? I was like, yeah, I made the whole thing, and she's like, oh, how did you do that? And I paused for a second, and I was like, I don't understand. She's like, yeah, how did you make tortellinis? And I was like, I went to the grocery store, and I bought tortellinis, and I put them in boiling water, and then I strained them, and then I poured some ragu sauce all over them, and I stirred it up, and I served it to him, and he ate it. I made tortellinis. And she looked at me like sideways, and she's like, so you warmed up tortellinis? I was like, no, shut up! I made tortellinis! And to this day, like, we still talk about that. Like, that hurt my feelings.
Oh, man, that's hilarious. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to Monday Club. Thank you for being part of the club. We love you all. Make sure you check us out on iTunes. Give us a little love and rating up there. And tell your friends about us. Tell your friends we have an amazing show today with Chris, and that you need to hear it. Post it on your favorite social media, and share it with your friends. We want to grow the clubhouse, and we want to add additions on. We want to add contractors and put additions onto our tree fort here, and put new seats in, and make it a big club. So check us out on our website too, because we are getting exclusive content out to our newsletter sign up ease. So if you go to mondayclubpodcast.com, put your name and email in there, we will send you a weekly email with the episodes, and also some exclusive content on occasion. So that's the only way to get that, mondayclubpodcast.com. Also, guess what? If you want to buy us a crazy ginger lime tequila drink, guess what? You could totally do that. You don't even have to make it. You can tell us what to do. All you have to do is PayPal us with enough money for this drink and tell us exactly what you want us to drink, and we're going to go out and find it. We will make it. We will crawl. We'll go to the ginger farms for you and pick some fresh ginger even and cut it up and put it in our blender. That sounded put it in our blender. That sounded dirty. And we will make that drink. Just PayPal us the money and a note at mondayclubpodcast@gmail.com. You can also email us questions, comments, concerns. If you have cool videos to share with us, share with us there. Or on our social media, Twitter at Monday Club Pod, Instagram Monday Club Podcast. And we are on Spotify and YouTube, so you can make Mondays your new Saturday any way you want it.
So let's jump into this, gents. Here's the thing. Monday Club, we have a special guest in our tree fort today. Chris Ruggiero is a magician, a juggler, and all-around badass. He's been on the Ellen Show. He's been on Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg, which I get giddy saying Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg. Recently, he's been on the Late Late Show with James Gordon. He's a Guinness Book of World Records 2-time recipient, and now an official Monday Club aficionado. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the tree fort, Chris Ruggiero.
Chris! Thank you so much for being on, man. It is good to see you in the flesh via Skype.
Yes, we're here. The audience came too.
Yeah, I know.
They jumped to their feet.
I have a studio audience in my office. It's wonderful. They're all my imaginary friends. Chris, last time I saw you, well, it was probably at a conference, but last time we really got to hang was in Myrtle Beach years ago. And I remember drinking some beers and listening to music outdoors in hot Myrtle Beach weather.
Yeah, at the beach.
Yeah.
It had to be like 3-4 years ago, probably. Yeah,
that was a bunch of years ago. But since then, you've been up to a lot, man. You've been on TV. What was that? Gus kind of teased you were on the Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart show.
Yeah.
Is that the weirdest combination of people you've ever had the pleasure of being in the room with?
They're like friends. It's crazy because, and it's actually an interesting pairing with them. They have a show on VH1, which is pretty cool, and they talk. They basically have it. It's like a really fun. It's almost like a Clubhouse type show where they just hang out and invite other celebrities over, and they talk about cooking food and hanging out, and they were having an episode about meatballs. The whole episode was dedicated to meatballs, so of course they were like, well, we need this to be nonsense because the show is just like insanity always, so they were like, what if jugglers run out juggling meatballs in the middle of the show? And
how did you get hooked up with that gig?
That was through. So Scott Neary is a juggler, host, and all-around variety type person here in Los Angeles who hosts his show Booby Trap every Wednesday in Hollywood, and I'm a regular performer there. And through that show, a lot of the casting people and producers see Scott as like the guy who knows all of the people in this world. So a lot of TV shows and stuff will come to him, and a great story about this could be added into one of our teachable moments later is that Scott and I went one day out in like the Hollywood Hills and filmed this like fun little juggling video. It was like a 1-minute juggling video. It had like drops in it. It was like very intentionally just like not perfect. There was like a time where we would try tricks and he would drop it and he would get like fake angry at it. And it was personality driven instead of, I think the two of us are both the types of jugglers that aren't the highest technically skilled jugglers. Like for me, I never tried to be like the highest technically skilled juggler. I wanted my show to be more personality driven. And through that, we made this little video, and it was like fun. And like a week, or like I posted on Facebook or something. Scott was like, "Oh, send me that link. I need to show it to somebody." And then like 3 days later, he was like, "Hey, can you do a TV appearance on this coming Wednesday at 2:00 or something?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And like I was just like, "Oh, he just called it a TV appearance." I thought maybe it's just like a local morning show or something. You know, if it was a big thing, he would have said what the big thing was.
Right. No.
But he was like, "Can you just do this TV appearance?" I'm like, "Oh, that is probably crappy." But I was like, "Yeah, sure. Like I'll do anything. Like if it sounds cool or sounds like it's fun, I'll say yeah." And then like, okay, and then he's like, the next day he's like, okay, so here's the details. And it was like up until like right before, and I'm like, what are we doing? And he's like, oh, Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg's show. I'm like, why wouldn't you start with that?
Totally buried the lead.
That's right.
And I think he just like thought it was funny that he just wouldn't tell me what it was that we were doing, because it's like a huge name thing.
Right.
And I like to if we can drive that over to like the lesson out of that was like, we didn't try to be, they wanted somebody for that show is obviously a personality driven show. Like it's not like a serious cooking show. And just like, we just made a video. It didn't have really great juggling in it, but it had our personalities. And then the show producers, they were like, oh, cool. We don't need the best jugglers. We need some people who are willing to like be silly and come out juggling meatballs and be.
I don't know if you know the principle that we're trying to highlight, but we want you to juggle meatballs.
We have a subtle secret life hack, and it's.
We want you to do a 5-ball cascade with meatballs and turn it into a shower, and then start eating them while you juggle.
Hey Pete, I'm impressed with your juggling lingo knowledge, man.
Yeah,
good job.
I used to throw some balls up and catch them.
Yeah, little columns action. That's cool.
I can do some columns. My biggest claim to fame is I could keep a Mills mess going for about 10 seconds.
Oh, there we go.
That
was pretty good.
Yeah. Nice.
That's pretty intense.
So I know that you do magic and all kinds of other stuff, Chris, but I'm very curious for people who take the path of entertainment with juggling. Do you find that, like you were talking about how your show is personality driven, and by the way, I've watched a couple of the clips that are on YouTube about you, and you really funny stuff and really fun. I see the crowd going nuts for you. Do you find that there's jugglers out there who get pissed because they are more technically accurate jugglers, or they're more, I don't want to say more technically skilled, but they're doing the 8-ball cascades and stuff like that, as compared to the personality driven jugglers that might do 3 to 5 objects, but they're making jokes and making the audience laugh the whole time and getting work that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And won't be going into specifics, but there's been jugglers who straight up have verbally and threatened me and
What?
Straight up actual scary stuff that was people there's one in particular who was when I first started, we were doing this showcase for this thing, and he was on the showcase as well, and he went to the event producers, the agency that was hosting the showcase, and started all these false things about me, and he said that he had lawsuits out against me for stealing his copyrighted materials. He was trying to get me kicked off the showcase before I was even there, and I didn't know any of this was happening. So it was they came to me and my agent, and they were like, "Hey, what's going on with this thing? This guy says he has these lawsuits out against you guys." And I was like, well, that's the first I've ever heard of this. He's just trying to do this stuff. And it was years through he would be attacked. He'd be like, "Hey, you got this gig. You got that gig because did you go after that because I've done it in the past?" And I'm like, "No, it's a juggling, there's not unlimited juggling, events throughout the country."
Right.
They switch the acts every year. I just got it this year and you didn't. It's not, that's okay. And he would just attack me and all this stuff. Now it's eased off now. I've just stopped responding. But absolutely, he would be like, "Oh, well, you don't even juggle 5 balls in your show." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you're mad at me because I got the show that you wanted to get."
That's fascinating, dude. That is totally fascinating. I thought that there would be an underbelly of juggling, but I didn't know how deep the criminal world of underhanded juggling was.
It's funny because it's same with magicians or musicians or anything. It's there's so many positive things, and most of my friends are supportive, but it's just 1 or 2 people, and through this I've heard other stories of this. There's a couple little there's different circles that they try to sabotage other people instead of making things better, and it's It's so stupid, really.
It is. So just so you know, like Pete, my background was also doing juggling and magic and stuff like that. And I've seen lots of different jugglers who've made their living as jugglers, from cruise ship jugglers to variety act jugglers to just entertaining jugglers. And I mean, there's merits to all of them. I've seen people juggle 12 objects and keep it going and do it to music, and it's beautiful. I've also seen people juggle scarves and travel the world just doing scarf juggling. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do. It's really interesting for a lay person, someone who has no idea any juggling jargon or lingo or anything like that, because I think that at a certain point in time, anything more than I'll say 5. Anything more than 5 balls is just like, hey, it's a juggler. Like
right.
they don't know how much skill is involved in that in practice. And so yeah, I think if your goal is just to be entertaining, like, focus on the entertainment part, not on the how much of a computer as my muscle memory.
Yeah,
That's crazy. I can't believe you had to endure that, though. That's insane. Cause
it was it was a scary, and it's the type of thing, like, now if that would happen, I'd be like, well, screw you. I'm fine. Like, I could, like, handle that. But it started right when I was starting, like, right when I was making the decision to be a full-time entertainer. And it added, like, doubts. I was like, wait, oh, maybe it was like a person that I looked up to. Yeah. So it was like, I was like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough for this, or, you know, something like that. And to tie this back into something else, Norman actually was the opposite of that. When I was first starting, I saw Norman Ing perform at my college, and he was, like, super supportive. So I'll give him a shout out. As being super positive and supportive. I like emailed him as somebody that I was like just getting started. He sent me, like, a full email that, like, addressed all my things, and he was super supportive. And I was like, that didn't hurt him in any way.
Right. To Norman Ing.
Yes. We always reference Norm on Monday Club too, so that works. And he repped you too when he had his agency for a while, right?
Yeah, and it turned into then, you know, it was like he helped me get started, and then it's like that turned into a business. Like, he was, you know, that was helping his business essentially later. So.
No, I understand how other performers attacking you. I've had that happen before, and it just messes with your head so much, and to endure years of that. Oh my God. You must have definitely, to be still doing it, you have probably built up the thickest emotional calluses ever.
And if there's a positive in it, it's like, well, that had a huge effect on me. It was like doubting things, and then some other people who were supportive, it's like now I try to be supportive through my podcast and sharing stories and stuff, because I know there's something. I've gotten messages on Instagram and stuff of young performers being like, hey, like, you posted this, like, inspirational thing, and it made me submit a proposal to this festival or something, and I got in. You know,
that's awesome.
And I was about to just not do it because I was assuming that I wasn't going to get in. And it's like something like that. It's like, well, you never know who's listening to this right now. I'm like, yeah, some guy is giving me a hard time too. Like,
right.
It's just like, it doesn't matter. Crazy. Like, that person doesn't matter. But to go back to the question of, I think it's probably valuable for so many people to hear, is that, like, I just did a gig that was, like, my highest paid gig ever. And I did nothing more technical than 3 balls. I did 3 balls juggling. I did 3 club juggling. And I did box juggling with 3 boxes. And that's it. I didn't do any higher level. I didn't do 4 ball. I didn't do 5 balls. I can do 5 balls, and I've done 5 balls on stage, but I, like, actively took that out because I turn into a technical juggler where I'm worried about technical juggling instead of connecting with the audience. So right. I purposefully took out all of the, like, difficult things, and it's like now I got some of the biggest paying gigs and some of the, like, the really prestigious things because I stopped caring about the juggling. Where it's like, I don't see juggling as, like, some people are passionate about juggling and they practice for 3 hours a day and they want to become technical. As you said, that's amazing, like that, and that's a fun act to watch. But I have zero interest in that. Like, juggling for me is just like a tool to the me connecting with the audience travels through the juggling props. If I could do that through a microphone, or if I could do that through like drums or something, like I'll throw away the juggling props tomorrow if you say, hey, this tool is better. It's like a screwdriver to me. Like the plumber doesn't care what tool he uses, just get the job done.
Right.
Like if I get new tools today to do that thing, that's all I care about. It's like obviously I've spent my whole life like working on juggling and have the skill to back that up. But also, like, it's not, I don't care about the juggling.
That's such a great, man, I love that message. I think that so many people forget that the people that pay you and the people that come see you are the people that really matter when you're doing it as an entertainment skill. I know that there's people who do it for therapy, there's people who do it because, like you said, they are just in love with the art form in and of itself. There's somebody out there who can juggle 15 things who has never been seen by human eye. They're in their backyard doing that, and that's what they want to do. Good for them. But yeah, I think that for anyone out there listening to this, I think that that's one of that idea of look, the highest paid thing I've ever done came about with me doing some of the least technical things. I think that's like real talk right there, because you're able to connect with the audience so much more if you're not trying to hold your mouth right while you're trying to do all this technical skill stuff. Yeah, that's really cool, man.
Sean Emery was a guest on my podcast, and he said he knows he had a successful show when he looks over at his prop table. So he's a juggler variety guy. He said he knows he had a successful show when he looks over at his prop table and sees juggling props that he didn't get to, because he ran out of time because he was interacting with the audience.
Yeah.
And then he said if the show felt too juggly, he knows it wasn't good. It was like the best shows are when he didn't get to the juggling stuff. And that resonates with me a lot.
We might use that phrase for Monday Club. We'll after the show, we'll be like, I don't know, that show felt too juggly. Hey, dude, so you talked about your podcast. Let's pimp that a little bit. Your podcast is called Between Dreams, right?
Yeah, Between Dreams is my podcast, and I do a lot of other things branded under that name, and it's kind of evolving right now as more of a full lifestyle brand. So it's a lifestyle brand that has a community built around it. So, you know, we're producing my podcast called Between Dreams, and that's going to be relaunching here right now, whenever people are listening to this, and on the YouTube channel. And it's very similar to this. I talk to entertainers and people who inspire me to share those stories of like little stories like that. I think is really valuable. Like what we just talked about, like, people that are listening want to try to do something, but they have all these silly excuses that looking at them, they feel silly, but like in the moment they feel real. Like, oh, I'm not good enough. I can't juggle 5 balls. And then I like to bring out those stories of, oh, hey, you did the show and you didn't need to juggle 5 balls, or whatever it is. Like we create these false roadblocks, and I like to, through my show, show the listeners that those roadblocks are probably just in our mind, and even if they are real, when you get to them, you just walk over them.
Mm-hmm. Nice. That sounds awesome, and I totally agree. I just started doing a little keynote along with my show, and that's something I talked about. You mentioned how you didn't. Earlier you were saying someone almost didn't submit because they didn't think they would get in, and that's exactly what happened when I got on the Fool Us show. Again, shout out to Norm, Opportunity Man here. He got on and he emailed me saying, or he called me, he said, you should try too. And my first thought was to say, no, I probably wouldn't make it on. You know, yeah. I'm maybe too afraid that they won't like me, or the rejection, to know that you got on and then I got rejected, you know. Right. And so I almost completely just didn't do it because I was scared of rejection. But I did, and it turned out good. So that's awesome, man. I can't wait to dig into your podcast more and listen to some new episodes coming up.
Right, yeah. I know we don't want to go too into the depth stuff, but it's like I find it so important because everyone is facing it, and it's like, but your fear of rejection made you reject yourself. You got an automatic no from yourself that might have been a yes from someone else. So it's like that every day we're through assumptions like, hey, this person's not going to have a budget to hire me. This person, this show's not going to be good. It's like all these assumptions that like 90% of the time are not true.
Yeah. Well, you weren't afraid of something, and you weren't afraid of Guinness World Book of Records. Me and Gus have been staring at 2 plaques behind your head this entire time that you pointed out before we got into it. You haven't told us what your record's for. Tell us first, how did you get in touch with Guinness? And then go into what are these world records you hold? Because that's freaking amazing to me to have a world record. You're the best at a particular skill.
There's several layers of this too, and it's like it's funny because there's teachable moments in all of this, and I got contact with them because they're a guest on my podcast, Ali Spagnola, who's like a social media. She's big on Snapchat and she does funny songs and stuff. She was a guest on my podcast, and long story short is after the podcast, she like does like sometimes in some of her sketches she does like juggling or like unicycling, and she had her unicycle there, and then we worked on some like little projects together, and she was like, hey, you ride unicycle, right? I was like, yeah. Like that's what I do, part of my show. And she's like, well, Guinness has been talking to me. They like the unicycle bits do well on their like Facebook Live, so they want to do more unicycle bits for whatever reason. That's like a good Facebook thing. If it's about unicycle, it does well according to their analytics. So they were they were like looking for people that could do unicycle tricks, and she was like, they have like specific ones that they want to possibly like people to be actively like doing, and it's a unicycle thing. So she was like, I'm just not good enough at unicycling, so you should hit them up, and if you think you could do this, you should hit them up and do it. And then she connected me with the people, which is like a hard thing to get in with them, and through it was like months of kind of back and forth, it finally like worked. And I did 2 unicycle things. The one was crushing the most amount of soda cans with the unicycle, so you can hop and crush them in 1 minute. I did 10, and that was I have that. That's one of the records. I crushed 10 cans of soda, like empty soda cans, by hopping up, crushing them. And then the next one was the most consecutive bunny hops on a unicycle. That one didn't have a time limit. You just had like a 2-inch board that I had to go back and forth over. And I did 96 of them. And I totally could have done more, but we were filming it in Los Angeles at noon. And we were outside, and I was just like sweating as we were doing it. And I was like, this is like the most unideal situation. It was like 98 degrees outside, and it was just like so hot. It was like a strenuous thing to do. So maybe I'll try to this year. Maybe we'll break my own record just to have an updated.
So, my understanding of world records is that did you have to pay for them to come out and see you do this, set up this stunt, or because they contacted you, was it they had the crew out there to verify?
Yeah, I don't know the specifics. There are like you can pay them to come do it, and I don't know how much of this is even. I don't know how much of these details are like out in the world, but anyway, for me it was like. There's sometimes when they want something specifically and they want to do it on their Facebook Live where they'll come out and do it and they'll cover those costs.
That's so great. That's so
But
cool.
I know you can just like buy it.
The world is so cool when you know how things work.
Yeah, you can just like buy it for like a coffee shop that wants to do like the highest amount of like the biggest coffee mug or something. Like you can pay for them to come out to like
verify
it or whatever, or you can send in videos. Like if people want to do it, you don't have to have them come out. You can have, if you need like witnesses and 3 camera angles and like a stopwatch in the frame of a thing. You need all their things, and you can find all that on their site though.
So Chris, when I found out that you were a Guinness Book of World Records recipient, I wanted to tell you the story. So I found one of my friends. He also got a Guinness Book of World Records, and he got it for the most ridiculous thing. It's for dressing the most people up as the Easter Bunny. Okay, so he was doing a show, and him and his buddy decided that what they wanted to do was have this be a Guinness Book of World Record, and so they at the time had like 175 students come to this show and got them all dressed up as the Easter Bunny, and they had the person there, and they got it filmed and legit recorded and counted and everything like that, and it came down to the wire, and they needed 2 more people to dress up as Easter bunnies, and they called all their friends, and finally people showed up and got dressed up in the allotted time, and they won, and yay, they got the Guinness Book of World Records. They did it on Easter, and so they were super pumped, and they high-fived each other, they went out and partied. The next day, they got a phone call. They still got the plaque, but the next day they got a phone call from Guinness that said, hey, just so you know, your record's already been broken. And apparently, there was a school in Asia somewhere that dressed their entire school up, like 1,000 and something kids, up as Easter Bunny. And so they didn't just get beat by 1, they got beat by like a magnitude of 10. But for one day, they were the record holders.
Oh, yeah, it's funny because that's like, there's like people that come. I got a message from this other unicycler that was like, he's like, hey, I'm going to beat your record. And, and like, he actually, I think, has a video where he did more of the cans, but he like didn't do it the proper like avenues. So like,
Right.
he has actually done more than me, but it's not on record. Like, he didn't do it the right way, so they don't recognize it yet.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm technically not the best at it, actually, but I'm the best recognized at it.
That's all,
That's
that
all
matters,
you need,
man.
though.
That's
That's all
that
you
matters.
need.
That's right.
I want to know who holds the record for holding the record for the shortest amount of time.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Like-
yeah, maybe you could get a record
Whose
for
record?
having that record.
Yeah.
You just like, yeah, it's like someone else beats it instantly. Like, you do it at the same time. There is a guy who holds the record for having the most records. There's a
That's
Guinness,
pretty
that's a
close.
good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, this
a
is pretty
Guinness
good.
World Record for holding the most Guinness World Records, and he has. It's not as many. You would think it would be like 400 or something. It's not. It's actually, I forget what it is, but it's like not as many as you would think.
That's so meta.
like 100
records
or
about
something.
records.
Yeah, I have the most records for having records of records.
What if you had records for the biggest record collection, and then that record was beaten quickly by someone else with more records?
Pete, don't go down this rabbit hole, buddy. It's going to break your brain.
All right. Well, let's do some news.
This week in the news.
Guys, I found an article about some 87-year-old millionaire called Forrest Fenn. He hid a buried treasure somewhere in the Rockies, and he's put out a poem with clues on how to find his buried treasure. And this takes me back. They mentioned the Goonies in the article. This is exactly what I feel when I read this article. The moment when you watch the Goonies and you see them reading the map up in the attic of the guy's father, and you're like, whoa. Maybe I should buy a ticket to Colorado and start roaming the Rockies looking for this little 1 foot square treasure chest full of jewels and other gold things.
This reminds me of that movie National Treasure, because something like more than 250,000 people have gone out trying to find this treasure over the last 2 years, right? And not a single one has found anything, even though we have a treasure map with a poem attached to it. And I mean, and I think people have died trying to find this treasure.
4 people, I think.
4 people
yeah,
have
4
died
people have
trying
died.
to find this treasure. So this might be one of those national treasure situations where maybe it does exist, maybe it doesn't, but is it really worth all of the pain to try to find it?
I think it is. I would go out and do it.
Chris, what about you, man? Do you think would you take 2 weeks off and just go and tour around in Colorado?
You know, my instant thought on this goes to just like, this guy's like bored and wants an adventure, so he like can get all this stuff, and I'm like, what if it's just like he just wants to see if he can get people riled up?
What if
Right.
it's a hoax? What if he buried an
Yeah,
empty box
like, that
or
would be
didn't even
so
put a box in there?
Yeah, that's where my brain instantly goes into just like the publicity stunt of thing. He's just like, what if I say I do this? Like, can I get people to go? But it's like, not actually, he's not doing it in a bad way. He's just like, I just want people to go outside and like walk around. So he's like, he just like creates this whole thing. He's like actually like a public service man. He's like trying to like encourage, but if he goes and like promotes the health benefits of like going for hikes in the Rocky Mountains, like people are like, oh, shut up, man. Like, go. So he like had to create this whole thing, and I think I'm committing to this. My new theory. He's just like a health enthusiast, and he wanted to encourage people to go for hikes, so he made up this whole thing, and now all these people are going out. It backfired when the people died, though.
Yeah. So what happens is years from now, somebody actually finds the treasure chest and they open it up, and there's just like a Fitbit in there, like track your steps. Good job.
Well, it can't be too hard to find. I mean, he buried it in 2010. If there is in fact treasure. So he would, 79, 80? How far could he have gone into the woods at that age, right? And he was by himself, because no one knows the location, unless he brought somebody else and killed them in the woods and left them there and buried them with the treasure. He's the only one. He didn't even tell his wife. He's gotten death threats. People have called him and said, "Tell me where the treasure is, or I'll kill you." There's like a subreddit with people talking about this on where to go looking, and people are communicating online about it. And I think it's really interesting. I think he really buried treasure. I really think he did. He looks like an eccentric dude. He's sitting there. He looks like he just is bored. He's a millionaire and bored. And what else does he have to do at 80 years old?
And let's be real clear, he didn't bury just money, right? He buried like diamonds and rubies and like actual pirate treasure.
Yeah, legit one-eyed Willie treasure here.
Yeah.
Like, this is like legit. Like, when you find it, it's going to sparkle into your face and there's going to be an uplight into your eyes. It's going to be great.
It's going to be the case from Pulp Fiction. You just open it up. Are we happy, Vincent?
Yeah. It reminds me of City Slickers too. You ever watch that movie?
Yeah.
I love City Slickers. Gone out and I would totally run a Monday Club expedition.
I'd go. I mean, I wouldn't like to die and be eaten by a bear, but I certainly would. I love puzzles, and so yeah, maybe we should join the hunt. I sure would get a new microphone if we found this buried treasure. I'll tell you that.
That's like what I my other thought goes into like a thing of like everyone's talking about this thing, and like he's got the best. It's the greatest publicity thing ever. Everyone's talking about this thing, and he's like a celebrity because he did this thing. It's like amazing.
Right. Yeah. Have you guys ever done like a treasure hunt of any kind?
Scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
I didn't get rich at the end of it, though.
I wish I did more, like, actual scavenger hunt things. That does kind of sound like fun. I mean, at least decrypting codes and running around and finding new stuff. I just got an ATV, and so I think going into the Colorado Rockies, and my excuse for going to the Rockies is really just to drink beer and ride my ATV, but my pretext for it is to go and try to find buried treasure. I can get behind that.
You know what? That's how someone's going to find it. There's going to be a couple of dudes on their ATVs, really drunk, just tooling around, and then they're just going to go over a little bump and be like, "Oh, what was that? That was a weird bump." And then they're going to uncover it, and they're going to be rich two dudes on ATVs.
You know how much beer we can get for this?
Oh man! So let's stories from the road.
Yeah, let's do it.
Hey, it's time for stories from the road.
I have been on the road a little bit. I've had some grad night shows like we talked about. I've been noticing a trend in my grad night shows. The earlier I go on, the better the show is.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Because I was on, and it might be me. Might be that they're falling asleep at 2 and 3 in the morning. But I went on, at 11 o'clock for 200 screaming students in Massachusetts. And it was an electric show. They were an amazing audience, and it was awesome. And then I had another show a couple days later at 2 a.m., and I was like, oh, I guess I'm not a rock star like I thought I was. No, but they've been good shows, and not much to report besides I kind of want to string 8 hours of sleep together tonight.
I'm with that, trying to string 8 hours of sleep. Sleep has eluded me for the past 3 or 4 days, and it's been... once you've stayed up for over 30 hours, your brain just your brain doesn't know what time it is, and so it's just really hard to force yourself to sleep, even when you know you're tired. So I had a bunch of grad night shows this past weekend too, and my last one, we were in a giant auditorium, and my shows were at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning, and the auditorium is on an automatic AC unit, and no one thought to check if that was going to last all night, and so at midnight, the AC shut out. So we had like 1,400 students in a giant warehouse room trying to watch my show. I'm dressed in a full-on suit, tie, vest, slacks, all of that, and just I lost 10 pounds in sweat. It was awful. It was just brutal, man. So yeah, that was my fun week of grad night shows. Chris, what about you, man? What have you been up to this week?
This week was so I was in outside Atlanta this past week. So I felt like I had a little bit of a week-long, same thing. It was like week-long recovery. I was doing I was there for 4 days, and I did 4 shows each day.
Wow.
4 days in a row.
Damn, that's a lot.
It was the same thing in Atlanta, so it was like kind of hot and sweaty a little bit for some of the shows. I was inside a theater, but still, like, I was just like, you just drinking water. You're like, I drank a lot of water today.
Right.
So I came back from that, so I just like kind of getting back into that. Took a couple days to recover from that, just like flying, doing that many shows, flying back. I'm like, okay, cool, now time to get back to work. Like, I think 3 days of lounging around is enough.
I'm recovered. So Gus always likes asking this question, but I want to ask it today. We know you're awesome.
All right, do it.
You're badass. I've been on TV. You tour all over the country, the world probably, huh? I think. And is there a time that everything went wrong that you are willing to share with Monday Club? Something, just a terrible, epic fail story, because it comforts us to know that we're not the only ones.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like those moments always happen in my brain before going on the road, and then they almost never actually happen. I've had like a few. I actually don't have one in particular. But I just have, like, a handful of ones that are, like, setting up for, like, especially college shows, like, setting up for college shows, and there being, like, no people in the audience. That's sometimes, like...
Oh, yeah, those are the worst.
Happens, like, sometimes. And there's one, so if there's one thing, and it's not even, like, a complete disaster, but there was one college show that I did in a cafe, so the college performers that are listening will know these stories. And I was in like the cafe on campus. I roll in and they're like, "Okay, cool. I think we have this sound system that you're going to use," and it had just like one like iPhone input that they had. Like I was like, "All right, well, I have other stuff. Like it's a whole show like that." They were like, "Oh, you can plug your phone into this for your music." I was like, "No, that's not really how this works." So it was off to a good start, and they're like, "Okay, we'll be over in the office if you need anything." Like they didn't even care to stay to watch the show. Like the people who booked me.
You like quietly raise your hand and say, "Yeah, I need a sound system, please."
Yeah. So it was there, and then I start setting up, and I see it's in the coffee shop. So the blender's blending every time someone comes in, they blend the drink. And there's like a little platform that's like an 8x8 platform that I need to ride a unicycle on and juggle on and all these things. And I realized that like no one's coming to this thing because they didn't even care to advertise it. And it's like 5 minutes to the show starts, and it's midterms week.
Oh,
so
yeah.
There's
God,
like
I've totally been there.
The
yeah.
week that everybody cares about studying.
Yeah, the one time, like even more so than finals. And there's like 4 people in the back, like at coffee tables, like drinking coffee and studying. And I was just like, I like go walk up on stage and I'm like, "Hey guys, we're gonna start a show. Like I have to do a show in 5 minutes, so it's gonna be loud. I'm gonna like be making noise. There's gonna be music playing. Like it would be cool. Like I'm going to be disrupting your studying, so if you guys want to just like come sit towards the front, so I have someone to like do a show at." That would be cool. So they reluctantly move to the front, and then for the first and you're doing a 60-minute show. It's a really long time for. It's not a long time when there's an audience, but when there's no audience, it's a really long time.
I like the distinction you made. It's like lunchtime shows you're not performing for them, you're performing at them.
Totally at them, yeah.
You're throwing stuff over people's head. You're not playing catch with somebody. You're throwing things over someone's head, and then you're waiting for the hour to be done. And sure enough, I did the show, and there was a time when people were actually studying. There was one row of people in the front on couches, and there was a time where they actually had their books open, more engaged in studying than in me juggling on a unicycle.
There's nothing more demeaning than when you realize that algebra is more entertaining than your show.
Yeah, and it was just there's been things like that, but it's you do the show, and then afterwards, if one person was oh, that was pretty cool, I got a study break, then it was a success. I remember Alex Clark talking to me about he was in North Dakota or something. He was in a cafeteria, and he was standing on a ladder, balanced on a ladder, juggling swords and stuff. And he said there was 8 people watching him, but it was noontime in the craziest of the student union of a university. And he said everyone was just going about their day as if there wasn't a person standing balanced on an 8-foot ladder juggling swords. And I was there's nothing more you can do. You didn't fail there.
Right.
It was there's just some other thing. And it's there's so many stories of all entertainers have those. And it's just it feels like the end of the world. But then you finish the show and you're oh, they thought it was cool.
Yep. I sure got my check today. Okay, goodbye.
Yeah. I just did some that were I did a show, some of these shows that I did at this theme park thing. There was the one show we had 10. It was a 350-seat theater, and I had 10 people come. And throughout my show, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people join me on stage.
So they're let's
so
get
I
half the audience
at the end I was legitimately out of some of them were toddlers who I can't have on stage,
Yeah.
And it was I actually ran out of I was oh, there's actually not enough people to come, I need you guys to help me with this thing, and I ran out of people. So there's just stories like that are just but then it's feels like the end of the world in the moment, and then it's over, and then afterwards people are hey, that was fun, and then they go about their day, and
Yep.
Yeah. No,
on to the next one. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you realize, I survived and I got paid, so I guess I'll do that
That's
again.
Right. That's
Yeah.
right.
It's
I don't have
selective
horror
amnesia.
stories.
Yeah,
right.
It's
And I don't have
I'm
horror
never doing this again in the moment, and then afterwards they give you the check and be it wasn't so bad. I'll do it again.
Yeah. When can I come back?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have specific horror stories of my luggage not arriving for a big show. I know people have those, or travel nightmares. I've always had every trip is something goes wrong, and then I think it's just you're okay, cool, now it'll work.
Superpowers isn't. Excuse me. Being lucky isn't a superpower.
You saw Deadpool the
I
other
saw
night,
Deadpool last night. That's awesome. Well, let's teach some things.
Teachable moments.
You like our singing,
Beautiful
Chris?
jingle. That's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
it sounds like the opening was crazy rock and roll. Now here, by the time we get to the end, we're
the bar's closing down. We're all linked arms, yeah.
Can't go
That'll
home,
do.
but you
That was
can't stay here.
That'll do.
We'll end it strong. We'll end it strong. My teachable moment this week is protect your ears, people. When I was a teenager, I would sit on my bed and I would have, and I would be reading magic books and practicing card tricks, and I would have my stereo pretty much 6 inches to a foot away from my right ear, and I would just play loud rock and roll music. And over the years, I've realized I think I've lost some hearing in my right ear, and then every once in a while, I hear a buzzing sound in my ear. I think it's tinnitus. You ever have that? It's not constant. That would drive me crazy, and I hope it never becomes constant because I might go crazy if that happens. And so, protect your ears, people. get earplugs. And what I just ordered these. They haven't come in yet on Amazon. They're called Eargasm. they're
Nice.
earplugs for concerts, so it doesn't change the pitch. You can hear just as crystal clear the music and what's going on around you. It just takes it down about 15 to 20 decibels, so you can still enjoy the concert. Because actually, last time I went to a concert, my right ear was completely distorted the entire time. When things got loud, I couldn't even enjoy the concert because it was a little bit painful, and there was the music was just distorted because my ear is losing hearing, and I feel like I'm getting old now. So Eargasm, check them out on Amazon. I'll include a link into the show notes, and save your ears. That's my teachable moment.
Nice, that's a good one. I went to a Bigfoot monster truck rally. That was an indoor Bigfoot monster truck rally, and I didn't know that you should probably bring earplugs for that. And we sat in pretty much the front row, and I couldn't hear for 3 days afterwards. I mean, those things are ridiculously loud. And
That's crazy.
Yeah. So,
yeah, you could do permanent
I
damage
second
too, just
earplugs.
from one time like that.
Yeah,
also,
I
don't
know.
use Q-tips, because recently I just I cleaned out my ear with a Q-tip, and I went too far, and it's very painful. And now I think I screwed up my ears. I have a whole bunch of ear regret right now. So.
Oh man, Chris, do you have a teachable moment you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, I love the ear thing. I actually have similar earplugs to those, and they're great. It's like it actually makes going out enjoying concerts and shows and stuff. I actually used them on Memorial Day weekend. I used them to watch fireworks show.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, because I was like front row of the fireworks, and sometimes you don't think about that, but that's like they're really loud. And I've had the earplugs in. I was like, oh, this fireworks show was actually way more enjoyable with earplugs. I was like, they come in even if you don't go to concerts and stuff. Like or some people use them to sleep, so that's great. And but I think mine, the one of the stories goes back to when I first started, and it was before I ever traveled like on airplanes with. My show, and I didn't know how to bring my unicycle to Miami to do this showcase thing that I was going to do, basically like an audition, like a conference type audition. And I was like, I don't know how to bring my unicycle there. It seems really difficult, and I don't have luggage because I've never flown with my show before. And it turned into this huge problem in my brain.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I have no idea how to do this. And then it thinks back to those thoughts of like, oh, maybe I'm just not cut out to do this. I could just keep doing like local birthday party shows and stuff, make a couple $100 here. Sure, I won't make like thousands of dollars for a show, but I also don't need to worry about learning how to bring this unicycle in the thing to Miami and figuring all this stuff out. And then I just made the decision. There was this decision that I was like, you know what? What do I have to do this? So I went to like the mall, like Boscov's or whatever, Bonton or whatever, like Sears or wherever it's called where you're from. And I went to the luggage place, the luggage section. I was like, what's the biggest piece of luggage that you have that you're allowed to bring on an airplane? They were like, oh, this is the biggest one. And then I was like, okay, cool. I'll buy that. And then it was $200. And I spent $200. And I came home and like took apart the unicycle, stuffed it in the suitcase, put some pillows in there, and then like took it to the airport. And I was like, I don't know if you're like, are they going to get mad at this because there's like weird thing in here? I like put it in, and I was like, oh, nervous about, are they going to like take something out or something? Sure enough, I get to Miami, my unicycle's there. I go to the hotel, put the unicycle, go to the show. I have a unicycle in the show, and like all of those problems that I thought I was going to have were solved because I did the action though. I went and said, I need to buy luggage. And then I didn't need to decide which luggage. I just said I need the biggest one that I'm allowed to get. And my problem was solved with a $200 trip to the mall.
Yeah.
And so in the moment the moment for this is, and as I've been doing, I've talked to a few people in here, is like, your problem right now isn't that you need to put a unicycle in a package to send it to Miami, but you have a thing that you're creating a problem out of that may or may not be an issue. It might be, hey, go to the mall and buy a piece of luggage, and it's solved. Like, and we know what the task is that we need to do. So, like, the question, the teachable moment is a question, like, what's your unicycle in a luggage.
Right. I totally get that, man. Like, what are you scared? What problem are you scared of solving? Because the real deal, Holyfield, is that honestly, most problems aren't that difficult to solve.
Yeah,
you just have to. You have to. They really aren't. You just have to do it. You're talking about this at the top of the show with people who say like, "Oh, I don't know how to cook," or "I don't know how to make drinks," or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, you put ice in a cup. And then you put some stuff in there,
shake it
and you
all
pour
around,
some
you
other
put
stuff,
the lime
yeah,
and
and then
the
if it
ginger
tastes
in.
bad, add something to it and see if it tastes better. There you go, you made a thing. And same deal, like, yeah, go to you got a giant unicycle and you got to get it from one place to another. Well, what's the biggest luggage we can get? Let's do that.
And people want to start. I get this all the time because I have a book also, which if people can find that if they want to. I don't need to turn it into lots of plugs, but like it's like I didn't know how to write a book or have money to like get someone to do the layout. So I like wrote. I was like I don't know how to do this, but I can take action. I started on my blog. Instead of writing a book, I started writing blog posts 3 times a week, and in 6 months, I had enough blog posts to just copy and paste them into like the layout of a book, and then I had a book. So people are like, "Well, I would never know how to write a book." And neither did I, but I knew how to once a day or a couple times a week write a blog post. And in 6 months, you literally have a book's worth of things written. Where it's like people say, I don't know how to start a podcast. It's like, go buy a $15 microphone on Amazon, and it's going to be fine. Like, and then after 30 episodes, you're probably going to quit because it's hard. Or if you're really into it, then you buy a $300 microphone and you have like the best microphone ever. Right. There's no problems there. It's like you just buy the thing that you need when you need
all these
it. Or
small actions and problems that you solve to build up to a bigger, the bigger goal.
Yeah, and when it matters, when you need something more, you've solved that problem. So long story short is like there's all these problems that don't exist that we keep creating. So just what do you need to do? What's the thing that you can do today? Do you want to start a podcast? Buy a microphone. Talking to your phone. Do you want to start a YouTube channel? Same thing. Talking to your phone. Do you want to do a juggling show? Go do one for free at the church. Or the community center, it's like and then film it, and then you have that. Like it's just action instead of worry or thoughts is the only thing that takes you from where you are to where we want to be.
That is a beautiful teachable moment, man. That's great. My teachable moment this past week is my wife and I surprised her for Valentine's Day with badass seats to see Paul Simon. He came to Austin on his farewell tour. She's a huge Paul Simon fan. And I remember when I was buying these tickets, looking at the ticket prices to Paul Simon and thinking to myself, I don't know if I really like Paul Simon that much. The ticket prices were pretty hefty. And then I thought to myself, we don't go to concerts that often. And as a performer myself, if I was able to put up tickets for a show that I was proud of, and obviously people were willing to pay those ticket prices, then I should support art as well. And so we got to go to the concert yesterday, and I'll tell you what, gents, I think that had we not gone to that concert and had we not gotten the seats that we got, I would have regretted not going and not spending the extra money for those seats for the rest of my life. I think that it was very clear that it was his farewell tour. That dude's been playing music for 70-something years. And he was basically like, hey, these are all my, every song that has the word goodbye in it, I'm singing it in this concert. And so that also got me thinking a little bit, we only get one shot at going around this earth and time on this earth. And I think that if you have an opportunity to do something, don't let fear or doubt stop you from having the best time, because you will remember those experiences far more than you will if you just decide to sit at home and play Warcraft. So yeah, that's my teachable moment.
Damn, we're full of inspiration this week.
Let's do it this week. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for listening to episode 64 of Money Club. Chris, thank you so much for being our extra special guest. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks
that
for
was
being
great.
Here.
Thanks for having me. Hello, listeners. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, check him out, chrisruggiero.com, link in the show notes, and his podcast, Between Dreams.
Happy Monday, guys. We did it! We made it through Monday! You guys, again, a huge thank you to Chris Ruggiero for hanging out in the tree fort. Chris Ruggiero, you can find him at www.ChrisRuggiero.com. Also check out his podcast, Between Dreams. You can always find us, MondayClubPodcast.com, Facebook.com/MondayClubPodcast, Twitter at MondayClubPod, Instagram at MondayClubPodcast. Email us or buy us a drink, MondayClubPodcast@gmail.com. Special thanks to our sound engineer, Mr. James Caldwell, and of course, Mr. Zach Holder for our music. Go out, be merry, have balls of steel, and we will see you next week on Monday Club.